Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidum majid. Wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidum majid. Rabbi syrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilman warzuqni fahman. Allahumma faqihna fid din wa 'allimna ta'wila. For today's session is our final MEXT scholarship interview simulation, okay? Because tomorrow you will be having the real interview. And then for today's session structure is that we'll have a rubric overview first, so you'll know exactly on what are the criteria or targets on each question that you need to meet, and then another opening and framing, like how you mentioned the opening like last session, and then we'll have a full interview questions to simulate the real embassy panel, and then we will have a wrap-up reflection. So not like yesterday we do the reflection on each questions. Now I'll just like wrap it up at the end, so I know exactly how long will it take. Will it actually meet 20 minutes or not? And then another reflection based on the rubric. So now let's look at the rubric first. We have 7 criteria here in the rubric. For the first one is about the clarity of motivation. You should make it deeply personal and tied to Japan and education. I think yesterday you did well on this. And then understanding of field, clear reasoning and hands-on rationality, which I mean like you need to mention the example. And then the academic readiness, logical things between science, teaching, and values. The keyword is about physics, so remember to mention that. And then the contribution and future vision is that specific, realistic, inspiring education center. So I think you have mentioned it. And then the realistic part, I think it's also quite realistic, and then should be inspiring as well. And your communication skills, you have excellent phrasing and tone, and also probably have minor polish tips. Like you do have a good phrasing, but in terms of tone, you tend to rush or you tend to think too long. You take more like 5 seconds. I think that's quite long to answer. Yesterday, yeah. I hope today you can like immediately answer the questions. And then the cultural awareness and adaptability. Di sini ketinggalan adaptability-nya. So you should have grounded in experience and nuanced insight, and also the passion and personal qualities. I will score your emotionally intelligent, sincere, and original. Make sure you put the sincere tone in it so we can feel it. And then ini sih kemarin yang paling penting ya, yang phrasing sama tone-nya agak harus dikontrol lagi, pacing-nya, kemudian articulation-nya ada beberapa yang agak membeli sedikit ya, beberapa kata I need to listen a little bit carefully so I could understand what you were saying yesterday. Yeah. Okay, so now let's start. I'm not timing you. You can just answer based on what you want to answer. Okay? Now, tell us about your personal journey and what has shaped your passion for early education.
Okay. I'm very passionate about early childhood education, and my long-term goal is to establish a Japanese-style daycare in Indonesia. I want to combine Japan's strong values of discipline, respect, and empathy with the needs of Indonesian family, especially because there are still very few daycare centers in my city despite the growing demand. I am highly motivated, eager to learn, and focused on using this opportunity to gain practical skills, practical skills and experience. And my aim is to bring back what I learned in Japan and use it to create something meaningful for the children and for the family, for their future of education in Indonesia. That's the question.
Okay. Now about your motivation for the field. What kind of motivation for you to apply for this education and welfare field for your specialized study?
Okay. My motivation comes from seeing how powerful early education is in shaping both individuals and communities. When I was teaching Japanese and English to very young children, I saw how quickly they observed not only language, but also the values like kindness, patience, and discipline when they were taught in a supportive environment. Growing up between Japan and Indonesia, I also noticed how different structured early childhood education makes in society. Because Japan's approach, where children learn respect, punctuality, and harmony from a young age, creates a strong foundation for their future. In Indonesia, the demand for quality daycare and early education is growing, but there are still very few facilities that combine both learning and character building. Choosing the education and welfare field allows me to gain practical training in how to nurture children's growth in a more holistic way, mentally, emotionally, and socially. My goal is to bring that knowledge back to Indonesia and create a daycare that reflects these values, giving children the right start in life while also supporting the working families.
Okay. Allah Akbar kucing gua. Berantem di sana. Ampun banget gue liatnya. Alright. For the nursery teacher training, so we saw in your application that you choose you make nursery teacher training as your second choice. So why is that?
So, nursery teacher training is actually closely connected to my main interest because my long term goal is to establish a Japanese style daycare in Indonesia and to create a daycare that truly reflects Japanese values like discipline, care, and respect. I need to understand early childhood education in depth, and not only in theory but also in practical day to day interaction with children. This training, I believe, will give me hands-on experience in childcare, classroom management, and communication with both children and their parents. These are essential skills for building a daycare that is not only safe, but also nurturing and value-driven. By learning directly from the Japanese nursery system, I can bring back proof.
Tadi aku disconnected ya.
Tapi nggak keluar dari roomnya.
I think you have to repeat this. Yeah, about the nursery teacher training. Because karena my fault ya, my technical masalah teknis. You mentioned ya tadi di sini bahwa you want to learn about the day to day practical education or routine, something like that. You mentioned that, but you didn't put the example, so you have to put the example. Salah satu aja.
Oh,
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Okay, so the nursery teacher training is part of your application, and you put it as your second choice. So why is that?
that's my second choice.
Balik lagi ke nursery teacher training. You put it as your second choice, but why is that?
Wait, before I answer, I'm pretty sure. Did I?
Tadi sampai ini sih, sampai udah nyebut long term goal ya. Terus nanti mau bikin yang mau paham banget gimana day to day practice-nya. Tapi ya kayak what kind of day to day-nya itu belum disebut sih tadi aku dengarnya.
Okay, so I think I'll add to that. Okay, so nursery teacher training is very okay. Nursery teacher training is closely connected to my main interest because my long-term goal is to establish a Japanese style daycare in Indonesia and to develop a daycare that really reflects the Japanese values like discipline, care, and respect. I need to understand early childhood education in depth, not only in theory but also in practical day-to-day interaction with children. For example, back when I was back when I attended daycare in Japan, there were certain activities such as cleaning the dishes together after eating, eating on time, everyone together, and like cleaning, even cleaning the classroom, cleaning the playfield after we played with the toys, and that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm trying to find.
Okay.
And I believe this training will give me hands-on experience in childcare, classroom management, and communication with both children and parents. And these are the essential skills to build a daycare that is not only safe but also nurturing and value-driven.
Okay.
By learning directly from the Japanese nursery system, I can bring back proven methods and adapt them to Indonesia, which will support my primary vision of improving early education in my country.
Okay. Now, we see that your academic background is from natural sciences. So, how does it connect to early childhood education?
Okay, right. Okay, so studying natural science really helped me develop logical and structured thinking. And among all the sciences, really I really liked physics the most because it showed me how things work in the world and trained me to think more clearly and systematically. Even in early childhood education, I found this very useful, like when explaining everyday things to kids, such as why objects fall and why balls roll when they're pushed. And physics helped me learn like how to break down ideas into more simple, fun explanation that young children can easily understand.
Okay. What do you hope to gain during your studies in Japan?
I want to gain practical skills in Japanese style early childhood education, especially in how teacher guide children's behavior with patience and structure. I also hope to learn how to create an environment that balances the discipline with empathy, which Japan does really well. And another important insight I want is understanding how to work closely with parents and the community to support children's growth as something I see as a strength in Japanese education. These skills will help me build a daycare in Indonesia that carries the same values and quality.
Okay. Now, you said that in your application, you lived in Japan before. So, how has that shaped your interest in studying there again?
So, okay. Growing up in Kyoto, growing up in Kyoto taught me a lot about the discipline and respect that are very deeply embedded in Japanese education. I saw how teachers not only focused on academics but also on building character, teaching children to care for others and their surroundings. And when I returned to Japan in 2024, I was reminded of how structured and balanced the learning environment is, and it made me realize how much I want to bring those values to Indonesia. This experience showed me that education isn't just about knowledge, but also about shaping attitude and habits, which is why I want to study in Japan again and learn how to apply those methods in my future daycare.
Okay. So, about you've only been there for 7 years, right? And
Yeah.
you have passed your teenagers and in Indonesia. So, what challenges that you do you anticipate in adapting to the study environment, and how will you overcome them?
One of the challenges I anticipate is the language barrier. Since my Japanese level is currently already at JLPT N3, but I feel like it's not the main. You need JLPT N2 for the full mastery of Japanese. And so to overcome this, I plan to immerse myself in the language every day by speaking with classmates, joining conversations, and continuing to study vocabulary and grammar to reach higher fluency. And another challenge might be adapting to Japan's strict discipline and high expectation in the learning environment. But I see this as an opportunity to grow. So I will approach it with an open mind, follow the rules carefully, and learn from how Japanese students manage their studies and responsibilities. I believe with persistence and my willingness to learn, I can adapt well and turn these challenges into strength.
Okay. Okay, now how do you plan to contribute to both Indonesia and Japan after completing your studies?
Okay. I plan to establish a Japanese style daycare in Indonesia that integrates values such as discipline, empathy, and respect with the needs of local families. In Bogor, my home city in Indonesia, there are currently no formal daycare centers, and across Indonesia, there are only about 58 government recognized daycare facilities. Despite the growing demand caused by an increasing number of dual income households, my aim is to create a high quality center where where children can develop both foundational skills and strong character from an early age. I also intend to collaborate with Japanese educators to exchange knowledge. I also intend to collaborate with Japanese educators to be mentors for my future teachers in my daycare to exchange knowledge and methods, which is how I'm going to raise the standard of early childhood education in Indonesia, while strengthening the bond between Indonesia and Japan.
Okay. So it's more like you're promoting Japanese values in your daycare, but also Indonesia get something from those implementation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any personal values that align with Japan's educational philosophy?
Yeah, I think the value. I think the value, Japanese value that connects with me the most is punctuality, or in Japanese, chikoku shinai. Right? Growing up in Japan taught me that being on time is not just it's not about schedules. It's not just about schedules, but also respecting other people's time and effort. But also in Islam, in my religion, we are also taught to value time and fulfill our obligations, especially with our five daily prayers that must be done on time. For me, this makes punctuality a value that combines both my Japanese and my faith, and I try to live by this every day, whether in school, work, or when teaching children. Punctuality builds discipline and kindness because it shows others to value them, because it shows others to respect their time, their efforts. And that's why I want to make it a core part of the daycare I plan to create. Teaching children to respect their time, respect people, and grow with values that reflect both Japanese discipline and Islamic principles.
Okay, udah di-mention example-nya belum tadi?
Uh,
In the daycare? Belum ya?
yeah, no, jangan lupa.
Uh,
Udah ada planning.
mm-mm.
Okay, okay.
You can add it. So these values you are going to gitu. Lanjut aja.
Okay.
Mm.
Oh, with these values, and then the example itu ya.
Yeah.
Okay, and with these values, I want to implement. And to implement these wait, no, to
For my future goal in creating the daycare, these values are implemented by apa sih
oh,
kemana yang fun cues gitu-gitu loh.
okay. And for my future daycare, I will implement punctuality by having a reward system when the kids uh, get on time and in the daycare example, and following the schedule, and also give them what's it called? Give them some kind of self self realization, so that no self okay wait self respect and self realization, so that they know, so they understand what time, when to do this and when to do that.
You
So,
want to build their habit of
yeah,
punctuality
okay, okay.
by doing tadi kan, setting a structured apa tadi, rutin tadi kemarin kamu nulisnya apa ya?
Structured 15.
Ya tuh ada kamu kemarin nyebutnya. Okay. Ya benar, kamu structure routine and then give fun cues for break time or for getting into class, etc. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, is there anything else you'd like to say to the panel?
Oh, okay. I would say that this scholarship is more than just a chance to study in Japan. But for me, it's the bridge or the stepping stone between my childhood in Japan, my life in Indonesia, and the dream I want to build for the future. I was born in Kyoto and grew up experiencing Japanese values, and I want to bring that same level of care, discipline, and empathy into early childhood education in Indonesia. And I believe with this opportunity, I can learn directly from Japan's nursery education system and combine it with my own cultural background and Islamic values to create something meaningful. A daycare that shapes strong, kind, and disciplined children. And this scholarship is not just for me, but it's also for the families and children in Indonesia who deserve better early education, and for strengthening the bond between Japan and Indonesia through something as simple and powerful as how we care for our youngest generation.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right. So a little bit of notes from me. You do have a tied to Japan and education for the motivation, and then it's also deeply personal because you put your experience in Japan, in Kyoto for 7 years. I'm not sure you mentioned that, but I think you did mention that you have your childhood there in Kyoto. And then for the clear reasoning, I think yes, but during this question, you were shaking. So you have to be aware about that, yeah? No shaking. And you almost forgot the example, but then when you added, you became nervous because you forgot. And in here, it's like you were just saying the words. You did not menekankan ya, not apa namanya, mention the point like during di mana ya tadi ada yang bagus ya. Jadi kamu nyebutin hal yang sama like discipline, care, and respect. Oh ini yang educational values itu. Ya, in the educational values you mention like properly ya, penekanannya tepat gitu. Like when you want to say discipline, care, and respect, itu kamu pakai pacing. Tapi begitu di bagian nursery teacher training, kamu tuh ngomongnya discipline, care, respect gitu. Ya, so you need to ya pacingnya di situ. Jadi make sure you were not like reading a sentence, but you were sincerely mentioning from deeply from your heart. So ya lebih jelas lagi, lebih you don't need to rush your answer. Ya, tadi di sini we probably have like 20 minutes ya. 20 minutes itu udah sama aku kayak interrupting a little bit ya. So it's probably more or less 15 minutes. And then in academic readiness is that you need logical links between science, teaching, and values. Yang udah itu adanya connection between science and teaching, tapi valuesnya belum ada. Misalnya you like physics because you can teach, you can create a fun teaching environment. What is the value, or what are the values when you learn about physics, and how you connect it to your teaching for the children gitu ya, the values ya between it, like how science give that values in your teaching, future teaching. Itu yang belum ada karena kemarin juga kita rubriknya cuma di skip aja ya, terus aku kayak baru baca juga today. And then for example apa ya valuesnya ya, misalnya kebersamaannya apa gimana, atau creativity or anything that you can think later. Tapi karena ini ya it's not bad sih. If I give you a score, I'll probably give you a 4, but if you insert the values I'll give you a 5 gitu aja sih sebenarnya. So if I have to score you, bentar ya, for clarity and motivationnya, mungkin ini kayaknya agak 4 ya. Yang bagian yang Kyoto-nya, yang childhood-nya experience itu munculnya belakangan sih, tapi ya mungkin pas tengah kali. Terus understanding the field-nya itu tadi kan agak-agak lupa, terus pacing agak kurang gitu ya. Mungkin aku ngasihnya masih 5 ya, karena sebenarnya tahu, cuman pacing aja yang kurang. Kemudian academic readiness-nya itu tadi 4. Kemudian contribution and future vision-nya cukup jelas ya menurut aku 5. Communication skills-nya itu tadi, when you get nervous, when you do not know the answer, you blanked out gitu ya. Jadi kayak bener-bener bingung banget harus kayak gimana. You could actually get a 5 if you stay calm. You don't need to rush your answer, but it's still 4 for me here. And then your cultural awareness and adaptability, I think it's 5 karena udah jelas banget and you know exactly what you need to pursue in the future. Like you still need to take the N2 or N1 or anything you need to take for the language barrier, and then for the discipline stuff is also good. And then about your passion and personal qualities, the nervous thingy, the shaking, the body language, etc. I think that's a 4 about the emotional intelligence, but the sincerity and originality, I think it's 5 for you. So you probably need to manage how you set yourself. Make sure you always sit down straight, your back straight, and then with the calm shoulders. Like don't make it too ini. Boy jangan terlalu santai. Not too relaxed, but also not too nervous like that. Make sure no shaking. Calm down your hands. Kayak gitu. Tarik napas dulu yang dalam ya. And then breathe out. Yeah, breathe in and breathe out 5 times until you feel calm enough. It can calm your nerves, and then start answering again with a better pace. Yeah, so make sure like you point out the keywords clearly. Apalagi part-part yang emang mention the values ya. Tadi udah bagus kayak misalnya bahas punctuality, and then you mention the Japanese is chikoku shinai, and then so they know you learn about Japanese, or you are really interested in Japanese values like that. That's a extra point for you. And I think it's good, so we can do another run through. We can start another one without any. Have you take the notes probably? Which part that you want to add some notes?
Wait. Just to add notes, I think.
You have your notes there on your computer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it's quite clear for me that you are actually reading, so you're not pacing. You're probably gonna memorize this. Oh, this is some notes for me. So the interview might have different questions, okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna be different, but it's gonna be like similarly to the real interview. So that's why I'm kind of like a bit concerned that you get nervous when you do not know the answer. Yeah, you like, like that. You just need to stay calm, and then take your time. It's okay. Although I said that you still need a little time to engine-nya panas gitu ya, kalau sebelum jauh. Tapi during the real interview, if they give you suddenly give you a different question apart from this, just take your time. You do not need to get nervous. You know the answer. You know what to say. Okay, that's what you need to make sure, because you have all the things that you know here. But they might ask you a question like you mentioned your long-term goals, just like I said, and then they probably want to know more about that, the panelist. And then tadi kayak lupa ya, how to build their habit of punctuality, itu yang ketinggalan ya. I want about for the example how the implementation will be. And I think it's original enough. Like I'm not sure, I don't have kids yet, so I don't know about daycares in Indonesia. So maybe, yeah, we probably more like adapt the Montessori instead of Japanese, because Montessori is more common and there's a lot of schools for Montessori schools, and also in daycare the teachers have more understand the value of Montessori more compared to Japanese. And then yeah, you need to put a strong reason why Japanese, why not, since we already have the Montessori here, like it's more popular in Indonesia. And then you mentioned those values. yeah, and then you mention those values, which is also probably already udah ada juga di Montessori gitu ya. But probably in Japanese they have different approach, ya, different approach on how makanya tadi harus ada example how-nya. How do you want to discipline? How discipline them? How do you want to create the discipline, a disciplined daycare, a caring daycare, and a respectful daycare based on Japanese values. Oke, paham ya? Karena in Montessori juga ada. Sama. However, they have different approach. Kemarin gue sampai searching ya di Copilot juga. What makes it different between Japanese and Montessori's approach for early childhood education? And then you can look into that. Yeah, look into the differences. So you can see here they have different core of philosophy. Yeah, ada core of philosophy. Makanya kayak kemarin Japanese philosophy, and then your own personal philosophy, and then the role of the teacher, and then the learning environment, the curriculum structure, the social learning, emotional development, assessment, and cultural anchoring. If you have to answer the question like why Japanese early childhood education, not Montessori, if anything, because Japanese approach is closer to Indonesian approach actually, like in Indonesian culture, gotong royong, yeah, we have those kind of thing, which is not part of the value of Montessori, which comes from Western education, ya kan, itu jadi ya fits better lah, it fits better ini Japanese early childhood education. Iya ya, makanya Montessori itu anak-anaknya mandiri, nggak bergantung ya. Cuman at the end of the day, kayak the primary years, kayak udah ke atas-atas ya, ke middle school, high school itu mereka terpaksa individu. Padahal mereka biasanya dari kecil udah diajarinnya kan social harmony ya, collaboration, apa connection, ya, grouping gitu-gitu, ya kinda not match the next educational system aja sih. Ya, semoga Jepang makin beres deh. Aneh aja tuh Jepang.
Where do you think, like, what can I add into using this information?
Itu bagian ini aja sih kan, if ini for example aja, kayak tadi kan aku bilang, they can probably mention like there's other approaches for early childhood education, so why Japanese gitu kan, why Japanese, like why not, kan mereka bisa kasih comparison with Montessori or other approaches gitu. Karena most likely Montessori itu yang udah worldwide dipakainya gitu. So you can put like for you prefer instead of individual mastery, you prefer like the group connection or group activity because it's pretty similar with Indonesian culture. Jadi bisa kayak gitu. Jadi misalnya nanti nih ditanya, karena ini kan bisa jadi kemungkinan ya, kemungkinan kalau ditanya. Jadi kamu udah tahu, oh iya kenapa Japanese, selain kamu sendiri udah ngerasain, Said udah pernah ngerasain waktu kecil, you felt like it was meaningful for you. Also, it fits more for Indonesian society. We have this norm of gotong royong, tenggang rasa, empathy. However, it was not implemented properly ya by the government. If you create this daycare, it's not only, pokoknya bukan sekedar daycare yang nganut Japanese, but also actually enhancing the Indonesian part juga. Jadi sama-sama kayak ngebangun gitu. Paham ya? Maksudnya kayak kalau aja ditanya, kalau enggak sih nggak apa-apa. Ya. Kayak tadi, tapi kan dia ada example tadi tentang activitiesnya. Tadi kamu juga udah nyebut ya. Takutnya lupa lagi gitu. Udah kamu udah di refine belum yang scriptnya biar kita run through lagi sekali lagi?
Ya, kurang itu yang
kurang itu tadi di nursery teacher training, tadi yang ketinggalan example kayaknya. Coba cek, ada nggak example-nya? Apa aku yang lupa?
motivation, bagian motivation.
No, nursery teacher training yang as your second choice.
Oh yeah, yang I need to add like the example for the day interaction with children ya. Itu belum masuk.
Sama bagian educational values yang bagian terakhir. Tinggalan yang kayak part example-nya, kamu tuh mau kayak gimana nerapin itu di daycare kamu. Itu ya tadi kalau aku kasih keywordsnya kan lebih ke build, how to build their habit of punctuality, how to be a punctual individual. So you create a structured routine and then you give fun cues
Itu yang
sama gently introduce proper sholat apa yang educational values,
oh,
educational
education.
values. Jadi itu masuknya ke values, kamu nanti mau diterapin di daycare gimana gitu. Nanti ya.
Okay.
Okay, hello Saifan. Welcome. Should I welcome? Welcome you to this MEXT scholarship interview. We would like to know about your personal journey and what has shaped your passion for early education.
Okay, well, my passion for early education started from my own childhood experiences. I was born in Kyoto and spent my early years in Japan, where I observed how children were raised with values like discipline, respect, and empathy. And after moving to Indonesia, I noticed a big difference in how early education was approached, and it made me realize how important those first few years are in shaping a child's character. Later, I had the chance to teach Japanese and English to young children, some as young as 4 years old, both as a volunteer and professionally. Those experiences showed me how curious and capable children are when given the right guidance and environment. And it also strengthened my belief that quality early education is the foundation of a strong society.
Okay. Now, what is your motivation for applying this scholarship for the education and welfare field for your specialized study?
Okay, my motivation comes from seeing how impactful and powerful early education is in shaping both the individuals and communities. And when I was teaching Japanese and English to young children, I saw how quickly they observe not only language but also also the values like kindness, patience, and discipline when they were taught in a supportive environment. Growing up between Japan and Indonesia, I also noticed how much different structured early childhood education makes in society, as Japan's approach, where children learn respect, punctuality, and harmony from a young age, creates a strong foundation for their future. In Indonesia, the demand for quality daycare and early education is growing rapidly, but there are still very few facilities that combine both learning and character building. Choosing the education welfare field allows me to gain practical training in how to nurture children's growth in a holistic way, mentally, emotionally, and socially. My goal is to bring that knowledge back to Indonesia and create a daycare that reflects these values, giving children the right start in life while also supporting working families.
Okay. Now, in your application, we see that you put nursery teacher training as your second choice. Why is that?
Uh, Nursery teacher training is closely connected to my main interest because my long term goal is to establish a Japanese style daycare in Indonesia. To create a daycare that truly reflects Japanese values like discipline, care, and respect, I need to understand early childhood education in depth, and not only in theory but also in practical day to day interaction with children. For example, in Japanese early childhood education, teachers use daily routines like a mealtime to teach gratitude, encourage children to clean up together, to build teamwork, and guide them to resolve small conflicts calmly and respectfully. Experiencing these methods firsthand will help me bring the same values into my future daycare.
Okay. Looking at your academic background, you were in a natural science class. So how is that connected to the early childhood education?
Well, studying natural science really helped me develop logical and structured thinking. But among all the sciences, I really connected with physics because it showed me how things work in the world, and it trained me to think clearly, to think more clearly and systematically. Even in early childhood education, I found this very useful. Like when explaining everyday things to kids, uh, such as why balls roll or why objects fall, physics helped me learn how to break down ideas into simple, fun explanation that young children can easily understand.
Okay. Now, during your studies in Japan, so what do you hope to gain while you're doing it?
Okay, I want to gain practical skills in Japanese style early childhood education, especially in how teachers guide the children's behavior with patience and structure. I also hope to learn how to create an environment that balances discipline with empathy, which Japan does really well. Another important insight I want is understanding how to work closely with the parents of the children and also the community to support children's growth, something I see as a strength in Japanese education. These skills will help me build a daycare in Indonesia that carries the same values and quality.
Now, we've seen that you've lived in Japan before and you also mentioned it. So, how has that shaped your interest in studying there in Japan again?
Okay. Growing up in Kyoto taught me a lot about discipline and respect that are deeply rooted in Japanese education. I saw how teachers not only focused on the academics but also on building character, teaching children to care for others and their surroundings. When I returned to Japan in 2024, I was reminded of how structured and balanced the learning environment is, and it made me realize how much I want to bring those values back to Indonesia. These experiences showed me that education isn't just about knowledge, but also about shaping attitudes and habits, which is why I want to study in Japan again and learn how to apply those methods in my future daycare.
Okay. So, since you only experienced your childhood there, so you only know the environment about uh, a daycare is, and you haven't experienced studying in the higher education, right? So, what challenges do you anticipate in adapting to the study environment, and how will you overcome them?
Well, I believe one of the challenges I anticipate is most definitely the language barrier, since my Japanese level is currently at JLPTN 3, which I believe is not enough for for Japanese mastery and to be able to commune well with the people there. And to overcome this, I plan to immerse myself in the language every day by speaking with classmates and joining conversations and continuing to study vocabulary and grammar to reach a higher fluency. And another challenge might be adapting to Japan's strict discipline and high expectations in the learning environment. I see, but I see this as an opportunity to grow. So I will approach it with an open mind, follow the rules carefully, and learn how Japanese students manage their studies and responsibilities. I believe with persistence and my willingness and determination to learn, I can adapt well and turn these challenges into strength.
Okay. Now, how do you plan to contribute to both Indonesia and Japan after completing your studies?
Okay, I plan to establish a Japanese style daycare in Indonesia that integrates Japanese values such as discipline, empathy, and respect with the needs of local families. In Bogor, my home city in Indonesia, there are currently no formal daycare or no government recognized daycare centers, and across Indonesia, there are only about 58 government recognized facilities. Despite the growing demand caused by an increasing number of dual income households. And my aim is to create a high quality center where children can develop both foundational skills and strong character from an early age. I also intend to collaborate with Japanese educators to exchange knowledge and methods, but also act as a mentor for to teach my to teach my Indonesian teachers which will help them learn more about the strong Japanese values, which will help raise the standard of early childhood education in Indonesia while strengthening educational and cultural ties between Indonesia and Japan.
Okay. Now, are there any personal values that align with Japan's educational philosophy?
Yeah, yes. The value that connects with me the most is punctuality, or in Japanese, chikoku shinai. Right? And growing up in Japan taught me that being on time is not just about schedules, but also about respecting other people's time and their efforts. And in Islam, in my religion, we are also taught to value time and fulfill our obligations, especially with the 5 daily prayers that must be done on time on a certain time frame. For me, this makes punctuality a value that combines both my Japanese upbringing and my faith. And I try to live by this every day, whether in school, work, or when teaching children. Punctuality builds discipline and kindness because it shows others you value them, you respect them, value their time. And that's why I want to make it a core part of the daycare I plan to create, teaching children to respect time, respect people, and grow with values that reflect both Japanese discipline and Islamic principles like being on time. And I would love to implement uh, this value of punctuality in my future daycare by adding certain fun cues between subjects, and giving a reward system for for students that are on time on doing literally anything. And I believe that would raise the that would raise the quality of my future daycare.
All right. Okay, now finally, is there anything else you'd like to say to the panel?
I would say that this scholarship is more than just a chance to study in Japan, but for me, it's the bridge between my childhood in Japan, my life in Indonesia, and the dream I want to build for the future. I was born in Kyoto and grew up experiencing Japanese values, and I want to bring that same level of care, discipline, and empathy into early childhood education in Indonesia. With this opportunity, I can learn directly from Japan's nursery education system and combine it with my own cultural background and Islamic values to create something meaningful, a daycare that shapes strong, kind, and disciplined children. And but this scholarship is not just for me, but it's also for the families and children in Indonesia who I believe deserve better early education, and for strengthening the bond between Japan and Indonesia through something as simple and powerful as how we care for our youngest generation.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit note ya di sini teh. Karakter building sama karakter education, I think kalau in education ya nyebutnya course itu karakter education pelajarannya. Kalau karakter building, kok gue berasa lagi organisasi ya, nggak tahu. Tapi you can I think it's not a really apa significant ya untuk diubah. However, character building mungkin aku aja yang nggak familiar untuk digunakan in educational setting. Ya, it's more like in organizational setting. Biasanya. Jadi nyebut lebih ke character education. Emang we lack of character education in Indonesia. It's completely different with IB, for example. IB during their primary years, they have this subject character education like specifically, and all subjects are integrated between in they have interdiscipline or interdisciplinary system. So although we are learning biology, it will also connected to other subjects, for example physics, math, and even character education. So in Indonesia we lack of that. But that's why I think character education will fits more into your context ya sebenarnya gitu. Terus about your JLPT, instead of only communicate or converse with your classmates, and then also apa tadi ya kamu tuh nyebutnya ada, tapi you probably want to add the normal like four sections like with the reading and writing, so you're going to practice your reading and writing to enhance your vocabularies probably, and then also how to write in academic tone, yeah, because I think Japanese also has their own standard for academic writing, just how any other language has. And so yeah, you probably want to add the reading and writing to probably read more books, so you get more familiar with Japanese. Yang terakhir, yang about the educational values, I mentioned this before, but you didn't add it in your answer. It's more like I think to end the answer by mentioning like for the contribution is that you are not only promoting Japanese values, so you promote Japanese values while also raising the educational standard for early childhood education. Jadi kayak sama-sama ya timbal balik ya, Japanese values-nya orang tahu, you promote them, orang jadi bisa aware, oh so ada Japanese values and Islamic values loh di sini, is not only Islamic probably. Terus tadi aku ada pernah lihat di threads ya tentang rewarding system, jadi instead of reward lebih ke appreciation ya, lebih ke appreciation in anything they did. Aduh nanti aku kalau ketemu aku share ya, tapi intinya ini gurunya apa ya istilahnya, game board apa gitu, jadi dia even untuk anak yang rajin mencatat tuh dia ngasih appreciation, not reward ya, nyebutnya appreciation, jadi kayak ngasih badge gitu, appreciation badge gitu. Jadi every kids ada badge-nya gitu. Even for the most silent kids aja tuh ada gitu, because gurunya tuh bisa lihat value si anak ini tuh di mana gitu. Misalnya ada yang ya terharu juga sih baca-bacanya, bagus juga sih itu dia sistemnya jadi instead of using the word of reward ya, reward itu kan biasanya hadiah, gift gitu ya, lebih ngasih ke appreciation. For example, giving them appreciation badge. Kayak aku waktu TK yang aku cerita di US ya, they give us like star stickers to appreciate that we were behaving nicely in the class, kayak gitu-gitu ya. Jadi ya kalau rewards nanti lain pemikirannya. Oke, itu aja. So I think it's good enough here for today. However, just remember bahwa the question could be different. The questions could be different, yeah. And then ini tuh ikhtiar, we're doing our best as we can. Jadi ya ekspektasinya kita ya gimana Allah aja ya. Kita udah berusaha sebisa kita. Allah knows best. Yang mana kita yang paling bisa untuk lolos, what kind of scholarship, what kind of education that we can get later ya. Kayak for example, walaupun aku nggak pernah les-lesan ya anaknya, tapi ini sedikit cerita aja background. Kalau aku S1 dulu itu aku les cuma 4 kali sebelum SNMPTN, karena aku nggak bisanya physics sama math, itu doang, ngambilnya twice math and then twice physics, itu aja. Ya qadarullah Allah kasih izin ya untuk masuk, Allah ridho masuk ke UI juga waktu itu, tapi karena nggak punya duit ya, kalau nggak punya duit mau les apaan gitu ya, jadi gitu. Tapi ya itu ya, it doesn't depends on how much efforts only ya, but when Allah says kun fayakun, that's it ya. Kita sekarang tapi kita tetap usaha, tetap ikhtiar. Jadi Saifan juga harus mau ya belajar sendiri ya, jangan sampai ada penyesalan nanti. Kalau aku kan apa yang mau disesalin ya, alhamdulillah aja kan udah terima. Tapi kalau misalnya nggak keterima dan nggak ngelakuin apa-apa dan ternyata dia mampu, ya we tend to have regrets later gitu. So just make sure you don't have regrets when doing this, and nggak usah nervous ya, nggak usah nervous. Pokoknya intinya kita percaya aja Allah akan ngasih yang terbaik buat kita. Betul. A little bit of preaching from me. Yeah. Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask me anytime. I'm open until your interview for tomorrow. Dress well, well, eat well, sleep well. Sama tadi karena kamu mungkin pengen buru-buru ya, jadi ngomongnya nanti kamu nonton deh, kamu ngomong gitu, kurang storytelling ya, lebih ke cerita from your heart ya, jangan terlalu di memorize juga. Keywordsnya aja paling yang penting kamu ingat apa, and the example, itu aja. Oke? Yarhamukallah. Oke. Ya, kita tutup dengan istighfar sebanyak-banyaknya biar lancar untuk besok. Astagfirullah. Alladzi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilaih. Shalawat Nabi. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama shallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Dan doa kafaratul majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya lupa foto dulu. Oke. All right. See you.
Okay.
Hope you successfully passed it anyway.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kak.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.